Thank you, Sister Odell. And I made her stand right in front of that speaker so that it would do that. Sorry about that. Again, you can't get too much Christmas. My family and I have put a bow on the haunted pickup of Provo. If you don't know what that is, it's probably best because the police might not like it. I don't know. But we try to do all kinds of things. We try to feel the spirit and the luminous love that radiates during this time. And so we thank those who offer their time now. And so we're also going to thank Nate Keller, who has for several years now that I've seen been our Mater D, Master of Ceremonies, and narrator. And so I'm going to turn the microphone over to him, and maybe we can give him a hand with all these performers. Thank you very much.
college friend of mine named Paul received a new automobile from his brother as a pre-Christmas present. On Christmas Eve, when Paul came out from his office, a street urchin was walking around the shiny new car admiring it. "Is this your car, mister?" he asked. Paul nodded. "My brother gave it to me for Christmas." The boy looked astounded. "You mean your brother gave it to you, and it didn't cost you nothing?" "Boy, I wish..." He hesitated, and Paul knew what he was going to wish. He was going to wish that he had a brother like that. But what the lad said jarred Paul all the way down to his heels. "I wish," the boy went on, "that I could be a brother like that." Paul looked at the boy in astonishment, then impulsively added, "Would you like a ride in my automobile?" "Oh yes, I'd love that." After a short ride, the urchin turned, and with his eyes aglow said, "Mister, would you mind driving in front of my house?" Paul smiled a little. He thought he knew what the lad wanted. He wanted to show his neighbors that he could ride home in a big automobile. But Paul was wrong again. "Will you stop right there by those 2 steps?" the boy asked. He ran up the steps. Then, in a little while, Paul heard him coming back, but he was not coming fast. He was carrying his little polio-crippled brother. He sat him down on the bottom step, then sort of squeezed up against him and pointed to the car. "There she is, buddy, just like I told you upstairs." His brother gave it to him for Christmas, and it didn't cost him a cent. And someday, I'm going to give you one just like it. Then you can see for yourself all the pretty things in the Christmas windows that I've been trying to tell you all about. Paul got out and lifted the lad from the front seat of his car. The shining-eyed older brother climbed in beside him, and the 3 of them began a memorable holiday ride. That Christmas Eve, Paul learned what Jesus meant when he said, "It is more blessed to give." I'd like to welcome to the stage our first performer of the evening. Her name is Nancy Hansen, and she's been playing guitar since she was 12 years old, and she's been writing songs and singing for the past 15 years. She's got a wonderful Christmas album out that was produced by Ryan Shoup and Craig Miner, and tonight Craig Miner will be performing with her on stage. She's also the host of a radio program on the Mormon Channel, which is called Everything Creative. Please welcome to the stage Nancy Hansen.
Check. Hi. We're just going to see if our instruments are plugged in. There we are. Well, this is really fun to be here tonight. Kind of a tradition for our family the last couple of years. Always grateful to be invited back. Always fun to have Craig Miner by my side. And I feel lucky because I get to play, a lot of little shows and play for people, and really helps bring the Christmas spirit in. This is one of my favorite songs to play. And just as it talks about Mary and the story of the birth of the Savior. This is Little Road to Bethlehem. As I walk down the road at the set of sun, the lambs were coming homeward one by one. I heard sheep bells softly calling them along the little road to Bethlehem. sweet Mary sang. Your star of gold is shining in the sky. So sleep, my little boy, go lullaby. As I walk down the road at the set of sun, the lambs were coming homeward one by one. I heard the sheep bells softly calling them along the little road to Bethlehem. Thank you. Well, when I decided several years ago to record a Christmas album, it was October, which is a little late to get started on a project like that. But my husband said, Nancy, let me get you a room up at Snowbird, and I'll take the kids. We had little kids at the time, and you just go up there and you light a fire and drink some hot cocoa and just get in the Christmas spirit and try to write a couple songs for the Christmas album. And so I drive up to Snowbird and I go into this beautiful room, and I get the guy to come and light a fire for me. And he wasn't a little guy, he was just a regular guy. But anyway, he was a fire starter guy. And I strung some Christmas lights up, and I grabbed my favorite writing pad and pencil, and I had my little 4-track recorder there, and I was going to write these songs. And I snuggled up with my guitar and I fell asleep. I took a big long nap, and I woke up, it was probably the middle of the night, and kind of panicking, thinking Dave was going to say the next day, so where's the songs, And so it was a good thing, because I think I am more creative in the middle of night, so it worked out. But it's funny that the song I wrote was for and about my kids. And sometimes when you have all these little kids underfoot, you can't wait to have a little reprieve. But yet, they're the ones I thought about when I was away from them. So this is my little song. This is for the kids. You know what happens if you don't go to sleep on Christmas Eve, right? Santa doesn't come, yeah? So I've tried this out, tried singing this to my kids on Christmas Eve for the last however many years, and it hasn't worked, but you're welcome to try it on your own children. Christmas Eve, and I believe Santa is coming. So get in your bed, cover your head, quit your ho-humming. It's getting late, I know you can't wait to see what he's bringing. I think he's near, listen, you'll hear jingle bells ringing. 'Cause right now, he's circling the rooftops. He's got his reindeer and sleigh. He's planning just where to make his next stop. He knows right now you're the way. Santa's no fool, he's got a rule I think it's worth keeping. There'll be no toys for good girls and boys till everyone's sleeping. Good old Saint Nick's gotta be quick to finish by morning. It's up to you, you know what to do, you've had a fair warning. 'Cause right now, he's circling the rooftops. He's got his reindeer and sleigh. He's planning just where to make his next stop. He knows right now you're awake. So listen to this, give me a kiss, hop in your covers. Try and count the sheep don't make a peep, you'll wake the others. And soon you will see under the tree all that he brought you. And it will be clear Santa is here, he hasn't forgotten you. 'Cause right now he's circling the rooftops. He's got his reindeer and sleigh. He's planning just where to make his next stop. He knows right now you're awake. Well, he sees you when you are sleeping. He knows right now you're awake. I'm going to bring up a couple of girls to help me on this next song. Hannah and Marissa, if you guys want to come up. We sang today in sacrament meeting at church, and I asked them if they would mind coming and having a redo. Okay, I just need 2 girls this time, the rest of you next time. I brought a whole bunch of girls, but I'm glad you're here. It's good to see you. Thanks for coming. So Marissa Schiffman is in our ward. This is my daughter Hannah, and we sing this song that Craig Miner and Ryan Shoup arranged for my Christmas album, which is Stars Were Gleaming, which is a favorite primary song of mine. I think I may have been the primary chorister when I was making this album because I was really drawn to this song and wanted to record it. And as many times as I know you children have sung this song, and even adults, there's lots of eaming, gleaming, screaming, like types of words, and so we definitely need our lyrics, don't we? See how it goes.
Stars were gleaming, shepherds streaming, and the night was dark and chill. Angels soaring, ring with glory. Shepherds heard it
thank you. It was fun, twice in one day. Doesn't Marissa have a gorgeous voice? Yes. All right, let's see who else joined me over here. Okay, it looks like we have Grace and Kate and Sophie and Emily. So these cute girls are part of a guitar class that I started teaching 6 little girls who are in about, 6th grade, most of you, 4th grade. And they wanted to learn to play guitar, so their moms got together and talked me into coming to their house and teaching a group guitar class. And they're all such cute little girls and really great at guitar. And we're having a lot of fun playing music together, aren't we? So I said, hey, do you want to learn one of my Christmas songs and come sing with me? And they jumped on it. So they all drove down from Salt Lake to be here, and I appreciate it. So thank you. We're going to leave you with this song. Thanks to Craig Miner for playing with me, as always. This is Once in Royal David City, a favorite of mine. This was originally recorded for a Festival of Trees album. And I went in and I played the guitar part for this song, and when I heard it back after it had been, everything had been added to it, the producer had put on, these beautiful children's voices, and it turned out so beautifully. I try to recreate that. Once in Royal David City stood a lowly cattle shed, where a mother laid her baby in a manger for his bed. Mary was that mother by Jesus Christ, her little child. And his cradle was a stall, with the poor and meek and lowly lived on earth, our Savior holy. Jesus is our childhood's pattern. Day by day, like us, he grew. He was little, weak, and helpless. Tears and smiles, like us, he knew. And he feeleth for our sadness, and he shareth in our gladness. And our eyes at last shall see him through his own redeeming love. For that child so dear and gentle is our Lord in heaven above. And he leads his children on to the place where he is gone.
It happened one day at the year's white end. Two neighbors called on an old-time friend, and they found his shop so meager and mean, made gay with 1,000 boughs of green. And Conrad was sitting with face ashine when he suddenly stopped as he stitched a twine and said, "Old friends, at dawn today, when the cock was crowing the night away, the Lord appeared in a dream to me and said, 'I am coming, your guest to be.' So I've been busy with feet astir, strewing my shop with branches of fir. The table is spread and the kettle is shined, and over the rafters the holly is twined. And now I will wait for my Lord to appear, and listen closely, so I will hear his step as he nears my humble place. And I open the door and look at his face." So his friends went home and left Conrad alone, for this was the happiest day he had known. For long since his family had passed away, and Conrad had spent a sad Christmas day. But he knew, with the Lord as his Christmas guest, this Christmas would be the dearest and the best. And he listened with only joy in his heart, and with every sound he would rise with a start, and look for the Lord to be standing there in answer to his earnest prayer. So he ran to the window after hearing a sound, but all that he saw on the snow-covered ground was a shabby beggar whose shoes were torn, and all of his clothes were ragged and worn. So Conrad was touched, and he went to the door and he said, "Your feet must be frozen and sore, and I have some shoes in my shop for you, and a coat that will keep you warmer too." So, with grateful heart, the man went away. But as Conrad noticed the time of day, he wondered what made the dear Lord so late, and how much longer he'd have to wait. When he heard a knock and ran to the door, but it was only a stranger once more. A bent old crone with a shawl of black, a bundle of faggots piled on her back. She asked only for a place to rest, but that was reserved for Conrad's great guest. But her voice seemed to plead, "Don't send me away. Let me rest a while on Christmas Day." So Conrad brewed her a steaming cup and told her to sit at the table and sup. But after she left, he was filled with dismay, for he saw that the hours were passing away, and the Lord had not come as he said he would. And Conrad felt sure he had misunderstood. When out of the stillness, he heard a cry, "Please help me and tell me, where am I?" So again he opened his friendly door, and he stood disappointed as twice before. It was only a child who had wandered away and was lost from her family on Christmas Day. Again, Conrad's heart was heavy and sad, but he knew he should make this little child glad. So he called her in and wiped her tears and quieted her childish fears. Then he led her back to her home once more. But as he entered his own darkened door, he knew that the Lord was not coming today, for the hours of Christmas had passed away. So he went to his room and knelt down to pray. And he said, "Dear Lord, why did you delay? What kept you from coming to call on me? For I wanted so much your face to see." When soft in the silence a voice he heard, "Lift up your head, for I kept my word. 3 times my shadow crossed your floor. 3 times I came to your lonely door. For I was the beggar with bruised cold feet. I was the woman who you gave food to eat. And I was the child on the homeless street." Our next performers this evening are known as Forever Blue, and they told me that they have a combined height of 10.5 feet. Roger has played guitar for 28 years, and he is currently one of the guitar players in Ryan Shoup and the Rubber Band. They've been playing together as a duo for about 4 years, and they have a steady gig at the Homestead Resort in Midway, Utah. They are a husband and wife team, and tonight they will be playing a few songs for you, one of which is an original tune called "He Is the Light." Please welcome to the stage, Forever Blue.
Dreaming of a white Christmas, just like the one dreaming of a white Christmas with every Christmas card I write. May your days, may your days, may your days be merry and bright, and may all your Christmases be white. May your days, may your days, may your days be merry and bright, and may all your Christmases be white, and may all your Christmases be white, and may all your Christmases be white.
Hello? There we go. Well, thank you very much. It's great to be here tonight. We are Forever Blue. And we're going to bring up Craig. He's already here. He's already on top of it.
Thanks, Craig. This is awesome. So the next song we're going to sing, this is an original song, like Nate Keller said. Back in September, Mark asked us if we would play this fireside. I was really excited, but he mentioned that I could possibly write a Christmas song. And I tried before, but I guess motivation is a good thing. So this one's called He's the Light.
There was a boy born in this life on a holy night, oh so long ago. There were three men, and yes they were wise. They came to his side bearing gifts of gold. And angels were singing, rejoice, rejoice. King is born, but he is more. He is the light of the world. He is the hope of every heart. He gives me eyes to see, and I'll lay my burdens at his feet, because I know, oh I know he loves me. A father's love, he gave his son, because he knew that's how it had to be. Hated by men, betrayed by his friends, that boy filled my cup in Gethsemane. And angels were singing, rejoice, rejoice. Now it is done. Come home, my son. He is the light of the world. He is the hope of every heart. And he gives me eyes to see, and I'll lay my burdens at his feet, 'cause he is the light of the world. He is the hope of every heart, and he gives me eyes to see, and I'll lay my burdens at his feet, because I know, oh I know he loves me. sea, and I'll lay my burdens at His feet, because I know, oh, I know He loves me. And there was a boy born in this life on a holy night, oh, so long ago.
Just got a bumblebee in my face. That was awesome. Whew, a little nervous. Felt like one of those things. Have you ever seen somebody walking in a park and all of a sudden like, oh, it's about me. Sorry about that. We have one more song for you. Roger has arranged this. He's an amazing guitar player. Thanks for letting us come tonight. It's been a good evening so far. Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright. I'm your virgin mother and child, holy infant, so tender and mild, sleep in heaven. Silent night, holy night, shepherds quake at the sight. Glory stream from heaven above. Heavenly hosts sing hallelujah. Christ the Savior lives. Silent night, holy night, Son of God, thus your light. Radiant beams from thy holy face, with the dawn of redeeming grace. Jesus, Lord of Christ the Savior, sleep in heaven. Thank you very much.
Christmas story, the God-born man in a manger and all that goes with it escapes some moderns. Mostly, I think, because they seek complex answers to their questions, and this one is utterly simple. For the cynics and the skeptics and the unconvinced, I submit a modern parable, a story originally prepared for the United Press International by Lewis Cassels. He was not a Scrooge. He was a kind, decent, mostly good man, generous to his family, upright in his dealings with other men. But he did not believe in all that incarnation stuff, which the churches proclaim at Christmas time. It just didn't make sense, and he was too honest to pretend otherwise. He could not swallow the Jesus story about God coming to earth as a man. I am truly sorry to distress you, he told his wife, but I am not going to go with you to church this Christmas Eve. He said he'd feel like a hypocrite, that he would much rather stay home, but that he would wait up for them. He stayed, and they went to the midnight service. Shortly after the family drove away in the car, snow began to fall. He went to the window to watch the flurries getting heavier and heavier, then went back to his fireside chair and began to read his newspaper. Minutes later, he was startled by a thudding sound, then another, then another. At first, he thought someone must be throwing snowballs against his living room window. But when he went to the front door to investigate, he found a flock of birds huddled miserably in the snow. They had began to be caught in a storm, and in a desperate search for shelter, he tried to fly through his large landscape window. Well, he couldn't let the poor creatures lie there and freeze, so he remembered the barn where his children stabled their pony. This would provide a warm shelter if he could direct the birds to it. He quickly put on a coat and galoshes, trampled through the deepening snow to the barn. He opened the doors wide and turned on a light, but the birds did not come in. He figured food would entice them in, so he hurried back to the house, fetched breadcrumbs, sprinkled them on the snow, making a trail of yellow-lighted, wide-open doorway to the stable. But to his dismay, the birds ignored the breadcrumbs and continued to flop around helplessly in the snow. He tried catching them. He tried shooing them into the barn by walking around them, waving his arms. Instead, they scattered in every direction except in the warm, lighted barn. Then he realized that they were afraid of him. To them, he reasoned, I am a strange and terrifying creature. If only I could think of some way to let them know that they can trust me, that I am not trying to hurt them, but to help them. But how? Any move he made tended to frighten them, confuse them. They would just not follow. They would not be led or shooed because they feared him. If only I could be a bird and mingle with them and speak their language and tell them not to be afraid and show them the safe way to the warm barn. But I'd have to be one of them so they could see me and hear me and understand. At that moment, the church bells began to ring. The sound reached his ears above the sound of the wind, and he stood there listening to the bells. Adestus Fidelis. Listening to the bells, pealing the glad tidings of Christmas. And he sank to his knees in the snow. Our next performer for the evening is Jeremy Hoop. You may recognize him as the star of the movie Charlie, which is in its 10-year anniversary this year, and he's also the star of the church movie The Testaments. He's a very talented singer-songwriter, and he has started recently a YouTube channel, which is called Mayday Red, and he's currently building up his online audience base. And so tonight is actually their first live performance, so you're going to hear them performing live for the very first time. He's singing tonight with Rachel Kohler. Let's welcome to the stage Jeremy Hoop and Mayday Red.
Happy Christmas, everybody. I'm Jeremy,
I'm Rachel.
and this is our first time performing live together, so
We're
see how it
excited.
goes. This is probably my favorite Christmas song. I'm not getting guitar. Is this guitar out? Is it working? to serve them, poor shepherds in fields as they lay, in fields where they lay keeping their sheep on a cold winter's night that was so deep. Nowhere, 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 nowhere. Born is the King of Israel.
Get high and saw a star shining in the east. Beyond them far into the earth, it gave great love, and so it continued both day and night. Nowhere, 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 nowhere. Born is the King of Israel. Let's all with one accord, singing praises to our heavenly Lord, who had made heaven and earth alive, and with His blood mankind has bought. Nowhere, 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 nowhere. Born is the King of Israel. Nowhere, nowhere, nowhere. Born is the King, forever we'll sing this night. Born is the King of Israel. Apologize for the feedback.
Angels in the house. A few years back, before Rachel and I started singing together, it was around a Christmas time, a particular Christmas, I was thinking about what it would have been like the night of Jesus' birth. Not for the wise men and the shepherds or Mary and Joseph in particular, but for the angels who were singing praises. And I don't know why it hadn't occurred to me before, but then it occurred to me that I think I was there. I think we were all there. And so I wrote this song, and when I finished it, it didn't feel complete until I discovered that it went pretty well with a song that's already been sung here twice tonight. Just a portion of that. And then it occurred to me that it was even better when I started singing with Rachel. So, hopefully, Rachel.
It's Gloria. Did she tell you that? It's called Gloria.
pray with the eyes of faith. We're almost here, heaven, join earth here to sing. It's just these days of it's on earth that the every Christmas shepherds and wise men and angels all echoing. It's just his day of peace on earth, goodwill to men. Peace on earth, goodwill to men. Peace on earth, goodwill. All is calm, all is bright, young, young virgin, mother and child, mother and holy child, mother and holy child.
Merry
So
Christmas.
much. Merry Christmas.
God bless us, everyone.
The year was 1931, and I was 14, the oldest of 11 children in our family in Highland, Utah. One day, my father and mother and a neighbor were in a car accident. Dad, a very strong man, managed to lift the car up enough to release mother and the neighbor. He himself suffered a broken arm and several broken ribs. Because of the accident, Dad was unable to work his 160-acre farm, and the bank foreclosed the mortgage on our home. The depression had hit us with all of its force. Dad was given a short time to move out. The meaning of that foreclosure became more clear to me just a few weeks later, when we had to build a house across the street on a small piece of land Dad had just bought. Because Dad was still recovering from his accident, Mother did much of the work. It was a small one-room shack with no floor, no windows, a bad roof, and wooden walls. We took hot rocks to bed with us in the wintertime to keep us warm. When the snow began to melt on the roofs, it would leak right through the roof into our beds. At night, we would often find ice in the covers. And in the morning, we could not make our beds because the edges of the blanket were frozen together. We knew for the first time in our lives how it felt to go to bed without any supper. We had to save hard pieces of bread for the younger children, and we lived on dry beans cooked without salt. Dad finally got a few days of work on the dry farm, and when the owner found out that Dad didn't bring any lunch because he had no food, he came to our house with a sack of flour and other groceries. I remember that we were so hungry, we tried eating the flour uncooked. Christmas came that year with a lot of snow, but no gifts. My brother Reuben told young Fred to save the candy and nuts they received at the American Fork Fireman's Christmas Party, because that's all they were going to get from Santa. Dad was able to make a payment on our home and install a wooden floor and 2 windows, and we knew that that would be our Christmas. But that was a Christmas that we all remembered. Dad joked and tried to play family games with us. Finally, he said, well, children, perhaps Santa did forget about us this year, but I bet we're not going to forget this Christmas. He was right, for we learned that Christ's Spirit lived in our hearts. That day, we learned the true value of love and found that one could be happy with its single embrace. One other wonderful thing happened that Christmas. It happened just after we ate a late dinner, and Dad had to go out to his nightly chores. He looked out at the blizzard, watched the snow hurtle through the air, and he was hating to go outside. Suddenly, a knock sounded at the door. We all looked at one another, half believing what we heard. We couldn't imagine anyone was coming to our door this late at night. The knock came again, and quickly one of us opened the door to find Santa. Santa was actually standing in the storm, holding a large bag across his shoulder. He stepped into the living room, saying, "Merry Christmas! Merry Christmas to you all." He put the bag down in the center of the room and started shaking hands with the boys. Finally, he ended up with us girls. When he shook hands with Reuben, he said, "This is the boy that made my trip possible." I overheard him say to his younger brother at the firemen's Christmas gathering to be sure to save his candy, for that is all that they would get for Christmas. Then he said, "I've been trying to get here since early this afternoon, but the blizzard was too severe." After getting warmed by our old heater, he opened the bag. There were dolls, plenty of candy for everyone, nuts, oranges, food, and toys. I saw tears in the cheeks of my mother and my dad. To know someone had not forgotten us. Mr. Irving Pratt, the elderly American Fork Fire Chief, had risked his life in the worst blizzard anyone in Highland could remember, to come to a little farm shack miles outside of town. After visiting us and taking a rest, Mr. Pratt asked Dad if he would get his team of horses and help him get his car out of a huge snowdrift about 1.5 miles away. Dad, of course, was happy to do it, and I saw them both disappear into the stormy night. After hours of anxious waiting, we received Dad safely home again. We all knelt and thanked our Father in heaven for Mr. Pratt and the love it took him to think of us under such trying circumstances. Our next performer this evening is David Osmond. He is married to Valerie, and she will be singing with him tonight on a couple of the numbers. He's been singing professionally since he was 4 years old, and he is the 4th son of Alan Osmond, who was one of the original Osmond brothers. This year, he debuted his first spiritual album, and I actually heard one of his songs on the radio today as I was coming home from church. It was "Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing," a very beautiful arrangement. Something you can know about him is that he has multiple sclerosis, MS, and you wouldn't know it because he's so happy and positive and energetic all the time. But he recently received an award from the National MS Society, which is basically the ambassador of the year. And I read that it's only been given out 6 times in the last 65 years, so it's quite an honor. He's an ambassador for finding a cure for MS, and very inspirational and an amazing performer. Let's welcome to the stage David Osmond.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Nate. Thanks for having me. God bless you. What's up? Feeling good, right? It's nice and warm in here. It's getting cold, finally. Love that. That's a great story. I love hearing that. In fact, Christmas is about connecting, isn't it? We come together, just like this, and we share. And a lot of the times we share our stories of each other. And speaking of which, do you guys know each other? We've been here for a while, like 45 minutes. Do you guys know each other yet? No? Well, turn to your neighbor, turn to the person to your right and to your left, say, "What's up? How you doing? It's about time, come on." There you go, yeah. Now turn to the person behind you, say, "Hey, what's up? How you feeling?" See, isn't that nice? Yeah, it's connecting. Now that you know your neighbor, I'd like you to turn to them and borrow $5 And only if you want. No, it is great to be here. It is fantastic, and I'm thrilled to be able to perform with these wonderful on my forehead. Thank you. The rest of you will get this in the car on the way home tonight. I'd like to introduce and bring back up the house musician for this evening for everybody. Craig Minor, give it up for Craig. This guy's amazing. This is an original song that we wrote. It hasn't ever been released, but we hope to do so this next year. It talks about I don't know, we're so fortunate. We are so blessed. We live in the greatest nation on earth. We have freedoms, we have family, we have the gospel of Jesus Christ, we have an abundant life, and so many people don't. And it's hard to see that, especially during this holiday season. And not just for kids of all ages, but especially for the young kids. And that's what this song represents. For those that don't have a Christmas. This is a song to reflect on all of our blessings and what we can do as individuals and collectively to give back to those that are less fortunate. It's just like a prayer from my child somewhere. A little voice longing for peace. A season of giving, a time for receiving, leaving us all to believe it will make us all as one. Those are the nights on the houses, white as the snow. Oh, it's something this time of year. Every heart's needing so much, and it's love. Every child needs a Christmas. Every child needs a Christmas. Every heart needs a time when it's all about love. Every child needs a Christmas. So let us remember every December to open our hearts for a while. Forget all your hurries, your troubles and worries, and bring a few faces a smile. It will make us all as one. Those are the lights on the houses, white as the snow. Oh, it's something this time of year. Every heart's needing so much, and it's love. Every child needs a Christmas. Every child needs a Christmas. Every heart needs a time when it's all about love. Every child needs a Christmas. It's just like a prayer from a child somewhere. Little voice longing for peace. It will make us all as one. White as the snow. Oh, it's something this time of year. Every heart's needing so much, and it's love. Every child needs a Christmas. Every child Valerie Osmond. That's amazing. Holy cow. I wanted to do one more for you, if that's okay. And if you haven't noticed, there is a running theme to tonight's show. And so I figured, since all the cool kids are doing it, I guess I gotta do it. And it's kind of like wearing the same dress to the prom as 6 other girls. But if you don't mind, I'd love to sing one of my favorite Christmas songs of all time. And I hope you enjoy it. I wanted to set this up because I just, 2 weeks ago, I was in Dallas, and I got the privilege of being invited by a great guy, a friend of mine. His name is Glenn Beck, and he has a Christmas special coming out. And he asked me if I would come and be a part of this live nativity and to sing a song. And as I'm a part of this nativity, it was amazing. The spirit there was phenomenal. Because in your mind's eye, you try to visualize what that must have been like to be there in that stable. You know, I can go there up here, but it's really different when you can actually see it. Kind of see it, you know, and you can touch it, you can feel it, and with the donkeys and the camels and everything else that was there, you can smell it, you know. But it was amazing, because we're celebrating this season a true story, something that really did happen, and is miraculous. And that spirit of Christmas, it just permeates everyone. And it certainly did in that moment, as I was visualizing, literally, the events that took place that night. And, you know, our prophet, President Monson, put it so eloquently when he said, you know, one just needs to drop the last syllable of the spirit of Christmas, and it becomes the spirit of Christ. So true. And so for the 6th time today, I would like to sing this song. I hope you enjoy it. All is calm, all is bright, round John Virgin, mother and child, holy infant, so tender and mild, sleep in heavenly peace, sleep in heavenly peace.
My father was a clerk in the accounting office of a large corporation. His work was routine. His pay was meager. My attitude toward him from the beginning of my consciousness was one of impatient tolerance. He was always a wisp of a man, usually dressed in a shiny dark blue serge suit, genteelly frayed at the cuffs and elbows. Well, I must say he was insignificant. In a sense, he was inadequate. One evening, that fall, when I was 11 years old, while we were sitting at supper, my father asked me what I wanted for Christmas. I suppose the holiday season was on his mind, and Christmas was always a financial strain on us. Most of my friends had bicycles. When I went riding with them, I had to suffer the embarrassment of riding on the crossbar of a friend's bicycle, or else take turns riding. I was always the poor relation, the charity guest. I said promptly, "I want a bicycle." My father rubbed his spoon across the tiny roses in the chipped oilcloth that covered the kitchen table. I knew then that I should have said, "Oh, nothing much," or else mentioned some small thing that he could afford. I don't know, Buck," my father said in his doubtful voice. "They cost a lot of money, don't they?" "They're awfully expensive," my mother assured him. I stared straight at them. "You asked me what I wanted," I said coldly, "and I told you." My father didn't look up. My mother didn't look at me either. The food tasted terrible. I finished fast and left. We didn't mention Christmas presents again. I had some money, less than $1, and as the time grew near, I finally bought my mother a scarf. It just happened that at this time the department store was having a sale on monogrammed handkerchiefs, so I burrowed around the corner of the counter until I found one with the letter M. On Christmas Eve, my mother and I waited outside the closed parlor while my father lighted the candles and put Silent Night on the phonograph, and then swung open the door. His face looked unusually flushed, and his eyes were extra bright. He said, "Merry Christmas, Mother. Buck, come in." He gave my mother a little package, and she gave him a little package. They both said, "Oh, I told you I didn't want," and then they began to laugh. My father seldom laughed very hard. It sounded good to hear him. Then my father gave me a small box. I opened it, and inside there was a pen and pencil set. I wanted a bicycle. "Thank you," I said as warmly as I could. "Thanks, Mom." My father held up his hand. "Oh, Buck," he said, "wait. That's not all. No siree, that's not all by any means." I had never before seen him like this. He seemed so alive and excited. He went into the bedroom and returned, dragging an enormous slab-sided package. He stepped back to watch me. I tore off the wrappings greedily. Then I almost pushed the thing to the floor. It was a bicycle, all right, but it was a second-hand, hastily repainted bicycle that could never stand comparison with those the other boys had. Once again, I thought my father had made me look like a charity case. I was so bitter, so angry, that I was about to shove it back into his hands and run from the room. But I happened to look up. My father stood there watching me closely, his lips parted, and moving nervously beside him stood my mother. I looked away. I had seen that though my father had suspected nothing, she knew. Her eyes were wide with terror and with prayer, and her face was pale. I drew a deep breath. "Oh, Dad," I said, "this is wonderful. It's just what I wanted." And I held it close against me. These simple words transformed my father. It sounds odd to say it of a man, but his eyes actually shone like stars and his face broke into a beautiful smile. "I told you, Mother," he boomed. "It's just what he wanted." "Yes, darling," said my mother. "Oh, yes, yes, yes." She put her arms around him and they both looked at me. Eager to do something, I set the bicycle on its stand and took their presents from my pockets. "Here," I said. My mother thanked me sweetly while she opened her present, but my father stared at his handkerchief. "Look, it has my initials embroidered on it. M for Martin." And his voice broke on Martin. I could have stood anything but that voice breaking. I ducked down beside the tree and pretended to admire the nativity figurines beneath while I blinked the tears out of my eyes. My father was almost beside himself with joy. "You know what I'm going to do, Mother," he said. "I'm going to get us a treat. Well, let's celebrate. It's Christmas. and he ran into the bedroom, grabbed his top coat, and hurled himself hatless through the front door. When he had gone, my mother said, "Thank heaven he didn't know you were disappointed. I don't know what he would have done. I was so afraid when I saw you." "I thought he couldn't afford it," I said finally. "He couldn't," said my mother. "He couldn't, Buck. To get the money for you, your father went without his lunch for 8 weeks. That was the money that bought your bicycle, dear Buck." Suddenly I felt frightened. My father's lunch cost him 30 cents. That was when you could get a plate lunch for that price. For 6 days a week, for 8 weeks, my father had gone hungry at noon for me. He had fought through his dreary afternoon work each day while the sickness of hunger twisted his insides. He had taken 30 pitiful pennies each day and laid them aside till he could buy this bicycle I had almost flung back at him. Is it any wonder I was frightened? When my father returned, he was a man I had never known before. His voice was firm, mature, rounded. His stride was big. He had not been drinking, but he was intoxicated. And why? I think you'll know what I mean when I say that I wanted to take my father in his arms and hug him as if he were the child and I were the man. That was a lovely, blessed night for the three of us. We sang, my father leading in a new voice, Christmas carols, love songs, and surprisingly humorous songs that he had brought up from his memory, endowed with family references that made them all the more deliciously funny to us. Our final performers for the evening are Ryan Shoup and the Rubber Band. They have been playing together for the past 16 years, and they have recorded 7 albums. And Craig Miner told me today that they are huge in Ghana, Africa. And that's actually true. He said that they are a radio sensation of some sort down there. They travel the world playing mostly original songs, and they come here to entertain us almost every year. We want to welcome to the stage now Ryan Shoup and the Rubber Band.
doing tonight? You probably know that that's Greg Viner on the banjo. Probably the most excellent banjo player I know. I've ever had the chance to play with. We're going to do a little fun song, a little medley called Bluegrass Christmas Mayhem. Dashing through the snow, made a one-horse open sleigh. Over the fields we go, laughing all the way. Bells on bobtail ring, make spirits bright. What fun it is to ride and sing the sleigh song tonight. Hey, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Hey, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Two ago, I thought I'd take a ride, and soon Miss Fanny Bride was sitting by my side. The horse was lean and lame, misfortune was a lot. If it wasn't for the courage of the fearless crew, the minnow would be lost. Hey, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Hey, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Deck the halls with bells and holly, fa-la-la-la-la-la-la-la. 'Tis the season to be jolly, fa-la-la-la-la-la-la. Join me now in merry measure, fa-la-la-la-la-la-la. Show the engine Yuletide treasure, fa-la-la-la-la-la-la. See the engine you before us, fa-la-la-la-la-la-la. Strike the harp and join the chorus, fa-la-la-la-la-la-la. Join me now in merry measure, fa-la-la-la-la-la-la. As we sing the Yuletide treasure, fa-la-la-la-la-la-la, fa-la-la-la-la-la-la, fa-la-la-la-la-la-la. Hey! Can you hear Roger over there on the guitar? Well, Roger is awesome.
Yes.
He's one of the best flat pick guitar players I've ever seen, had a chance to play with, and he loves his mother's Christmas lasagna.
Yes.
And he sings the high harmonies you're going to hear on this song. This is a song it's a new song for us, so we're going to try it out. And you can actually go home and download this for free off of our Facebook page. So it's a little Christmas present we're going to give to you.
They could not find room at the inn, so in a manger they laid him. It was quiet in Jerusalem the night that Christ was born. A new star in the sky appeared. The wise men prayed, the wicked feared, but Mary held her baby near the night that Christ was born. Angels singing, good tidings bringing, salvation ringing, the night that Christ was born. While shepherds in their fields they lay, an angel in the nighttime came and told them where they'd find the babe, the night that Christ was born. Then a heavenly Oh, surround them, sing praises to the newborn King. And they went to see that wondrous thing, the night that Christ was born. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Angels singing, good tidings bringing, salvation bringing, the night that Christ was born. Angels singing, good tidings bringing, salvation ringing. Oh, angels singing, good tidings bringing, salvation ringing. Oh, angels singing, good tidings bringing, salvation ringing. The night that Christ was born, the angels singing, good tidings bringing, salvation bringing, the night that Christ was born. Sing, bringing the night that Christ was born.
Alright, so Roger on the guitar, Craig on the now Mizuki. This is Nate Smeeding on this thing called the cajon, which I think means the box. We're glad Nate's here. Thanks for coming, buddy. We're gonna do another song that was an original song. This is another original song. I think that this song, well, I guess this is the song actually we're gonna end with. And then Nate, not Nate, the cajon player, Nate, the MC, is gonna tell you another story. This is, I think, captures the true meaning of Christmas. It's a song called The Gift.
You guys know what Rudolph wants for Christmas, right? A pony sleigh station. Thanks.
Sorry, I gotta make sure the violin's in tune. It's hard to sing and play at the same time. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Who was men came from many miles away to see what the prophecy foretold. Miraculous surprise, and the tears came to their eyes, and they said, he's got the gift. Shepherds from afar, they followed through the star, and the king shook his head in disbelief. So hear the angels sing, let salvation reign. stopped the gift. Oh, come all ye faithful, joyful and triumphant. Oh, come ye to Bethlehem. People gather round to hear his voice, the sound of truth and prophecy unfold. Those fishes fed 5,000 people said, He's got the gift, merciful and kind, even heal the blind and cause the lame to walk again. When his faithful are quiet, and it could not be denied. He's got the gift. Oh, come all ye faithful, joyful and triumphant. Oh, come ye to shoulders gold, the cross and so much more, and on his head a crown of thorns. But his death it had to be for all the world to see. He's got the gift, 'cause only he could give, and only he could live and rise again to conquer death and sin. So hear the angels sing their salvation ring. He's got the gift. Oh, come all ye faithful, joyful and triumphant. Oh, come ye to Bethlehem. I say, sing choirs of angels, sing in exaltation. Christ the Lord is born. I say, sing choirs of angels, sing in exaltation. Christ the Lord is born. Christ the Lord is born.
Well, Christmas time is a time for thinking of others and helping them to feel important and loved. The last couple of years I've read to you a children's book. And 2 years ago I read one called The Big Orange Splot. Last year I read one called You Are Special. And tonight I'd like to read one for you called Stand Tall, Molly Lou Mellon. Molly Lou Mellon stood just taller than her dog and was the shortest girl in the first grade. She didn't mind. Her grandma had told her, walk as proudly as you can and the world will look up to you. And so she did. Molly Lou Mellon had buck teeth that stuck out so far she could stack pennies on them. She didn't mind. Her grandma had told her, smile big and the world will smile right alongside you. And so she did. Molly Lou Mellon had a voice that sounded like a bullfrog being squeezed by a boa constrictor. She didn't mind. Her grandma had told her, sing out clear and strong, and the world will cry tears of joy. So she did. Molly Lou Mellon was often fumble-fingered. She didn't mind. Her grandma had told her, believe in yourself, and the world will believe in you too. And so she did. Then, Molly Lou Mellon moved to a new town. She had to say goodbye to her grandma and to all of her friends. She started in a new school. On the first day of school, Ronald Durkin called her Shrimpo in gym class. When the game started, Molly Lou Mellon caught the football, ran under the legs of Ronald Durkin, and scored a touchdown. All the children thought, wow, she's good. And Ronald Durkin felt very foolish. On the second day of school, Ronald Durkin called her Bucky Tooth Beaver. Molly Lou Mellon took out her pennies, stacked 10 high on her teeth, and smiled as big as day. All the children smiled with glee, and Ronald Durkin felt very foolish. On the third day of school, Ronald Durkin said, you sound like a sick duck, honk, honk. Molly Lou Mellon sang out, quack, so clear and so strong that it made Ronald Durkin somersault backwards, hit his head, and have to go to the nurse. All the children cried with joy to be free of Ronald Durkin for the rest of the afternoon. And Ronald Durkin felt very foolish. On the fourth day of school, Ronald Durkin said that she'd made her snowflake all wrong. But Molly Lou Mellon opened up her paper and revealed the most beautiful snowflake of all. All the children oohed and awed, even Ronald. On the fifth day of school, Ronald Durkin brought Molly Mellon a stacking penny for her tooth, and he smiled at her. That night, Molly Lou Mellon took out a pencil and a paper and wrote a letter to her grandma. Dear Grandma, I wanted to tell you that everything you told me was exactly right. Love, Molly Lou Mellon. I don't know if you can see how small the grandma is. Okay, well, thank you for coming this evening. We hope you've enjoyed the performance. Can we get another round of applause for all of our performers? We'd like to invite everyone who's performed tonight back up on stage for one last song. We would like you to join in with us. We're going to be singing The First Noel.
Okay, we came up with a little bit of a plan about 5 seconds ago. We're gonna share the first two verses, and then we'll come back and everybody sing with us the first verse again.
The first Noel, the angel did say, was to serve